the president is only enjoined by law, after having determined prima facie, to set up a committee to look into the allegations and offer the Chief Justice every available opportunity to answer to these claims in detail. And then after that, the committee will present recommendations for the president to act. Now, the Constitution requires that this process is consultative. And so you find that at every step of the way, the president has consulted the Council of State. Now, once the committee has been formed, and if you look at the composition of the committee, the Constitution makes it clear that 2 of the members must be justices of the Supreme Court. And then 3 other members who are not lawyers and who are not members of the Council of State. So that requirement is clearly met, I beg your pardon, in full compliance with the Constitution. Once this is done, the petitions are then referred to them, which has been done as I speak to you. And then the president, on the basis of Article 146 of the Constitution, shall by or would by a warrant suspend the Chief Justice pending the outcome of the investigations of this committee. So the president has kept faith with the Constitution and done everything by the book and ensured that his actions are well grounded in the 1992 Constitution.
So that was the Minister of State in charge of Government Communication, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, there, who spoke to us on the Pulse show on the Joy News channel earlier, explaining what exactly has been happening. Now, we get into details and speak to other people who are versed in the area of law to help us appreciate what exactly is happening. We will be joined, on Zoom shortly by Martin Pegbu, who is a private legal practitioner. We'll also be joined by a lawyer and a member of Parliament, John Darko, to help us appreciate exactly what the issues are. But, if you look at what the law says, the law is clear on what the president should do. It says that if the president receives petition that for the removal of the Chief Justice, the president shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the president, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. Now, if you look at 7, it says the committee appointed under clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the president whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office or not. That's why Felix intimated that by forming a committee to look into this, the president is therefore not saying that the Chief Justice is liable for all the things they've stated in the petition, but this is just a process the president is following, because that is not how it is. The committee will finish its work before it recommends to the president what he or she has to do, but in this case, he has to do. Now, all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or other expert of his choice. 9, the president shall in each case act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. So the work the committee is going to do is quite critical in this particular process. What the recommendation of the committee will actually be what the president will or may implement. Now it says, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, by warrant signed by him, that the president can suspend the Chief Justice. That's exactly what he's done. We've been joined on the line by lawyer Martin Pegbu here. Lawyer, I'm grateful to you for joining. Now, if you look at what is happening, how do you expect the CJ to approach this particular
is not encouraged
in the formal hearing that she's expected to go into once this committee has been formed? Okay, so lawyer, do I have you on the line?
Which is truly a great.
Hold on for me. What I can get some interferences. We're rectifying it. I hear you on the line. Stay on with me. Let me try. Okay. So, lawyer, I mean, how do you expect the CJ to approach this?
Look, if to be very blunt with you, and it's better I just speak my mind straight. A resignation would be better. I mean, a resignation would just be better. It's better, I mean, than for us to go through all of this. Now,
but being referred to the committee is not conclusive in itself, right? She can be exonerated at the end of the day, can she?
Yes, theoretically, but you see, if you look at dragging this matter on in the public domain and everything, by the time we are done, the whole system would have suffered too much. So I think that, look, if we are talking in terms of strategy for our democracy and everything, a resignation is better than going into the committee. Because, look, this is going to open a can of worms. It will rake all the old wounds, the Anas expose, everything is going to come up. Everything will be thrown at the system. No, it's not good for our democracy to drag this matter. A resignation will be in order so that everything is curtailed, so that we move on quickly. Because otherwise, going through the whole of this process, then a judgment will come. Don't forget the Charlotte say one. A judgment was rendered, and we read through, dissected it. Oh, come on. And the more we discuss it, then the more we are raking up old wounds. That's why I say we'll open a can of worms, and then the partisan angle, everything. So, I mean, if I was asked in terms of strategy, I mean, a resignation is better than going to fight this kind of thing. You know, I have not seen the petitions, but you've seen that certain excerpts of certain audit reports have emerged on social media that don't look good. They are not. I saw, just like I'm telling you, they were not told that they are part of the petitions, right? But having seen those things, I'm telling you that if we are speaking, and you see, strategy is also law. It's not every time that you insist that, oh, yes, I have a right to be heard. I want to go in and defend. No, by the time you are done, and I'm looking at the length of time, and it's not just even that when it's done, the documents will be kept secret. No, as for the outcome, we are entitled to know. You know, the Charlotte say one, it came out, the judgment came out. And you know, even recently, the prima facie determination, the one Akufo-Addo did in respect of the petition Professor Kweku Asare presented. Yes, Akufo-Addo's ruling came out, right? Okujeto says he wrote it, you see? And then we went through it and all that. This one, no. 3 petitions, look.
But what if she has evidence to prove her innocence?
Look, I'm telling you, Fred, you know, this is the work we do. This type of thing. Look, theoretically, yes. Okay, so I can leave the strategy matter. So we can, yes, so let's proceed on in terms of pure law. Yes, so if she has evidence to disprove everything, yes, she will win. Then it means that case closed. Then we would continue as if nothing happened. All right. But you see, the problem started for me when the minority came out with that press conference where they bastardized the system and said that they had already concluded that this day was coming, Justice Tokonu was going to be suspended, and that the person was going to be take over eventually as Chief Justice. Is an NDC sympathizer, and warned him that he should not rise on the fall of another person, and not everything. So you see that's what I'm saying, that let's make this short, very short, then we can heal and move on. A resignation saves the whole nation rather than us digging in. You see, it's not every time that you can insist on your right. When you insist on your right and it hurts all the people around you, it destroys the fiber of the society, it deepens divisions, rakes up old wounds, opens other kinds of worms, etc. No, then you would know that a resignation will serve us better.
But there are other people who think that this sets a dangerous precedent for the executive branch interfering in judicial matters.
Well, you see, Kojo, good. You know, they said when Chief Justice Tokonu was being vetted, I remember clearly that when they asked her that what does she want changed in this constitution, this is the very matter she mentioned. And I have been making a lot of noise on this provision, Article 144, okay, Clause 6, etc., the president's power to appoint justices of the superior courts, including Supreme Court, etc. She said it has to be changed so that the judiciary will get far better independence. At her vetting, she said so. So one would have expected that when she took over, she was going to fight for us to amend the constitution, but she didn't. Some of us kept making noise about it. Even last year, when the matter of appointing 5 more justices onto the Supreme Court came, we kept making noise. Till date, every Saturday morning when I sit on TV3, that's one of the lines I drop, that in the new constitution, the president should not be appointing chief justice and all the judges of the superior courts. That's to say, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. That's in the new constitution. Kojo Brace, today as we talk, it's in the constitution that if the committee, and I think you read it, Article 146, if the committee finds that the Chief Justice did wrong, the president has the power to remove the Chief Justice. And it's not discretionary. What you're reading there, it's shall. And in law, when it says shall, it is mandatory. In this sometimes there are exceptions, but in this context, it's mandatory. So if the evidence comes out and then the committee recommends that she be removed, the president has no discretion in the matter. He has to remove her. You say it. So it's not the president who is doing anything. We all, as a collective, as a society, we should have taken steps long ago to amend this constitution. But Akufo-Addo will have none of it. When I was making all the noise, people were telling me, do you have a personal problem with Akufo-Addo? Do you have a personal problem with Akufo-Addo? You see, today here we are.
But have we considered the impact on public trust in the judiciary and democratic institutions in the country if this to follow through?
We have. So that is why we still come back to the point that a resignation will save all of us, because this matter is going to take center stage for the next how many weeks, and there are likely going to be leakages, you see, since we've seen portions of, or let's say excerpts of the audit report. More are going to come out. You know, on Saturday I followed News 5. Then I heard that one of the petitions has more than 20 grounds. Kojo Brace, you heard me right. More than 20 grounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going up to 20 and more. So can you imagine if this petition ever leaks? And even if it doesn't leak, if eventually when it's done, we are going to read the final outcome. So one petition having 20 grounds, then the other petitions. Then when the NDC also came out to counter what the NPP did, which we condemned, the NDC officer also mentioned that 2 more petitions have been presented. So if we are going by Mustafa Bandi's extra information that 2 more petitions have been presented, then that means 5 petitions. The judiciary is going to collapse. We will not survive this. The damage to the system will be almost beyond repair. Remember, we've not fully recovered from the Anas expose, the goats and all that. You hear somebody say, give me 2 judges. When you say give me 2 judges, that means 2 pieces of goat meat and etc. Those unanimous FC, etc. No, this will destroy the system.
Okay, stay with me. Let me bring in John Dakon. He is MP for Swami and a lawyer himself. I'm grateful to you for joining. Now, the president has been fair in terms of due process, no?
Complete overreach of executive power and the destruction of the very foundation of our democracy. The president, we thought, was a Democrat and that he believed in due process. What has happened today has nothing to do with the process for the removal of the Chief Justice. This is politics at play. Everything from the beginning to the end is accentuated by politics.
Let me appreciate let me appreciate your point better, because we've seen what the law says, and we've all seen that the president has actually gone through the process as laid down by the law. But you say otherwise.
The reason why no Chief Justice has ever been removed under our Fourth Republic is that the framework of the Constitution did not expect that flimsy petitions, such as the ones we have, will form the basis for the removal of a Chief Justice.
Have you seen the petitions yourself?
Wait, I am so surprised that my friend on the other side, in defending the position of the government, is telling us that somebody has 20 grounds for the removal of the Chief Justice, and for that matter, the Chief Justice should be suspended. 20 grounds. What if all the grounds are useless grounds? What if all the grounds are lies? You should tell us that, is it a case that the fact that somebody presents 100 petitions against somebody means that the person is guilty? Is it now the position of the law that when people put some charges against you and it's more than 20, then you are guilty? That is definitely not the case. The framework of the Constitution expected that the grounds for the removal of Chief Justice will be one of grave matter, not frivolous ones like this. But Mr. Bande said, he's referring to what he himself has seen, that there are 20 grounds. They should tell us.
Well, but the Constitution is clear that the prima facie will be determined, and when it's determined, the president then would go ahead and push into force all the other processes for the matter to be heard in full. That's what we've seen happening here. But I really want to understand why you are saying that there isn't enough for what is happening to happen.
My brother, let's be real. We are talking about nation building here. We are talking about the independence of the third arm of government. It is not a joke. In fact, this is unprecedented in the history of our Fourth Republic. Of course, you can talk of the removal of Chief Justice Akukosa in 1863, but under our Fourth Republic, it has never happened that a Chief Justice will be removed. Well, haven't we all heard that one of the reasons is because the Chief Justice did not return 75,000 Ghana cedis, something which we know, and he was referring to it. The Auditor General's report has cleared it. Okay? You should know that from the beginning, from last year, and even as recent as last week or two, the General Secretary of the NDC, the Chairman of the NDC, all the NDC bigwigs have said that the CJ must be removed. So the idea that, it went through the process, my brother, it's not enough. This is clear abuse of the process. The act that resulted in the suspension of Ghana's Chief Justice, was accentuated by politics. Nothing more. And all of us should condemn this. We are stepping into a serious slippery slope.
But you can only do this when you are able to prove that there is nothing in those petitions, and therefore the only thing you can point to is politics. But when you are not able to tell us that in the petition this and this do not add up to enough grounds for the suspension of the CJ, it's difficult for people to side with you.
Do you agree with me that even before this so-called petition had been sent, the NDC chairman and all the NDC big men have said that they will remove the Chief Justice? I'm asking you, my brother, do you agree that the NDC big men, the NDC party, the general secretary, the chairman, last year, early this year, they said that they will remove the Chief Justice? I'm asking you, we're having a conversation. Haven't they said that?
You make your point.
No, so the point is that from day one, they have targeted the Chief Justice. And we know, they have told everybody that they are removing the Chief Justice so that they can remove the Electoral Commission chair. The NDC chairman said it recently. He said that the target is the Electoral Commission chair. They need to remove the CJ so that they can get the Electoral Commission chair out. Kenyans should be angry. Kenyans should be sad. I've said that this is Ghana's day of shame. Today, the 22nd day of April, will live in infamy. The day our president ceased to be the consummate Democrat that we have known him to be. He gave in to the dark side of his political party. The destruction of our democracy has begun. And I believe that every well-meaning Ghanaian, the CSOs, the religious bodies, all of you, the media, should never defend this on the altar of Article 146. It has nothing to do with Article 146.
Okay, I'm grateful to you. But let me wrap up with Pebu. Martin, so as I depart from you, what will be your departing comment? What do you think must happen now?
I think that Lawyer Adaku, as an MP, should be very restrained, okay? From day one, he's politicized this matter beyond measure. Lawyer Adaku should restrain himself. You see, Kojo Brace, you asked him a question, has he seen the petition? Then you see that he ducked that question. Then he came back later and said there was a matter of 75,000. The Chief Justice returned it. You see, they held a press conference and started reviewing this. And Lawyer Adaku and his people said that the next CJ is an NDC sympathizer. Said very unsavory things. I wonder where Lawyer Adaku is going with this. What is his interest? He's calling things frivolous. Meanwhile, he's not able to articulate and show us what he's saying. What are the grounds? Why all this politics? Rather, I think he's insulting our intelligence. But Lawyer Adaku should realize that there's life. There's far more life ahead of us. So these words he's using today, a few days ago, the press conference, they are there. The internet doesn't forget. This thing he's doing, it's not worth it.
Okay, I'm grateful to you, Lawyer Martin Pebu and then Lawyer John Dako there. There's more on this particular developing story on Newsnight with Evans Mensah.
And tonight, MPP and NDC clash over suspension of Chief Justice.
It's about the weakening of the institution. It's about the undermining of the institution that has consequence far into the future. So this is not a joke matter.
As a party, the NDC, we are very much happy, elated with the decision to suspend her. We want to bring back the glory of the judiciary.
We also hear from current and former Deputy Attorney Generals as they take each other on for the decision that has left the judiciary shaking to the core.
We may be sowing some seeds that today may be comfortable to us, but in the future, we'll come back to regret badly. It shouldn't be politicized at all. At this stage, we are not even sure whether the allegations are proven.
And in business, International Monetary Fund warns growth for Ghana this year will suffer due to current global tariff war.
And in sports, Ghana Weightlifting Federation rejects claims of bias in the withdrawal of some top athletes for Mauritius weightlifting championships.
You want to stay with us, so with your views and comments all here on Newsnight. We'll be focusing quite a bit on the developments in the judiciary with the suspension of the Chief Justice and tell you who will be acting CJ henceforth. All this plus more after this.
I beg, fix me go betete Ghana. No gari, no oil, no plantain, just beans then eggs.
Hey, brah, that be dangerous combination, no?
Problem no day. I feel handle am.
For Telecel, with the Bob say everybody gets what they like. That be why Made For Me bundles day. Based on your usage, you fit get your own data and call packages. Fala! Made For Me bundles like the way you the want them. That's *530#. Then buy Made For Me bundles today.
Telecel. Connecting energies.
Where do your hopes and dreams take flight? The money you've earned, the future shining bright. At Petra, We're not just here for your retirement plan. We are here for the life you've imagined and then some. From your child's education to your dream home's door, we'll help you achieve what you're striving for. Petra is here, steady and strong. Your wealth in safe hands, where it belongs. With investments that grow at rates that compete, we build your future with every heartbeat. That's Petra, your partner. Come joy or strife, guiding you toward the dreams that define your life. For your pensions, investments, loans, and more, visit our website at petraonline.com or dial *447 *70#. Petra, achieve more.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. Me I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, I make Dana Mata with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Dana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302 681582. This advert is FDA approved.
You're still live, your news night is on Joy 99.7 FM, and major breaking news over the last few hours with the suspension of the Chief Justice. And the last few minutes, we've been hearing from both the NPP and the NDC, and they have clashed on the suspension, vehemently disagreeing on the real motive behind the President's decision following consultation with the Council of State to suspend the Chief Justice. We now know that the NDC have been telling us quite categorically they are very elated about the President's decision to suspend the current Chief Justice.
Of course, which they agree. They know, the MPP, they are very much. I'm surprised they are defending her as if she's a woman organizer of MPP. For the last time I checked, I don't believe Madame Tokono was a woman organizer of MPP. So they have no business in coming in strongly to try to defend her as if she's one of them. Are they telling her she's one of them? If that is what Richard wants us to know, they should let us know. But in any case, when I describe them as hypocrites, when they were removing Charlotte Osei, didn't they know that they were setting a dangerous precedent for the constitutional bodies in Ghana? Were we not in this country? Where was Richard and his likes? Is it the first time they have removed a constitutionally independent body, head of such an institution? You bundled out Charlotte Osei with her deputies. You didn't even, with the Trump charges against them. We have records. We can play it for them to listen. Is that the same thing? And true, when you came to office in 2016, you went ahead and removed her. Has any NDC member stood in any of the campaign platform and stated that we're coming to remove the Chief Justice? And I'm saying that in order to sanctify the judiciary and bring them upstream, we must do the rightful. And I congratulate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. In fact, as a party, the NDC, we are very much happy.
The NDC is happy about this?
Elated with the decision to suspend her. Because we want to bring back the glory of the judiciary. They must be respected.
And then there's Tanko Ibrahim, Deputy Director of Elections with the NDC there. We heard from the Director of Communications from the opposition New Patriotic Party. He is also very upset that the President took the decision to suspend the current Chief of Staff. He says the current Chief Justice, he says it is politically motivated and there's no way they will accept it. In fact, he hinted that if the NPP wins power again, it will be fair game to also begin a process to remove whichever Chief Justice the current administration replaces the suspended Chief Justice with. Listen to Richard Ihagba.
People should not go and formulate some rather remote ideas, and that constitutes political motive to remove an individual, right? Some of his office are is very material to the survival of our democracy.
Right.
Look, this is not about the Chief Justice person. It's about the institution. It's about the weakening of the institution. It's about the undermining of the institution that has consequence far into the future. So this is not a joke matter. So where the Deputy Attorney General is saying that this is technical, it is not for them to tell us that. It is our democracy. How people fought for us to have a democracy today, and for them, for their convenient political motive to set up this thing as though that we should believe in a committee that is set. We cannot hang our hopes on a committee. This is the people's democracy. It's not a democracy for 5 people.
Are you suggesting that in the event that there is a change of government in the future, whoever will be CJ then may be taken to similar exercise?
It will be fair game. It will be something that has been done before, so anybody doing it again will not be new. Ghanaians perhaps may have come to accept it, that is done before, the justification will be there for it, but inherently, what you are doing is weakening our democracy.
And I want to bring in Roxanne Defamekbo, who is the majority whip, joins us on the telephone line right now. As you know, this is generating a fair bit of controversy on the day when the president suspended the Chief Justice. He joins me on the line right now. Roxanne, I'm grateful that you joined me. You just listened there to the Director of Communications for the NPP, and it's very clear that as far as the NPP is concerned, this is politically motivated, and it is fair game that whoever replaces the current Chief Justice, who the president has now suspended, they will have every justification to trigger the process to remove that person too. Your reaction?
Well, let me say good evening to your viewers. I think that any comment to the effect that it will be fair game in the future will be an agenda to pursue a path of vindictiveness. Let the record reflect that this is not the first time Article 146 process has been triggered in this country. It was triggered in respect of some judges who were caught on some video recorded by Lawyer Anas, if you recall, and petitions were sent to the then Judicial Council, which led to a process removing some High Court judges and some Court of Appeal judges, if you recall, including Circuit Court judges and magistrates in this country. Again, in the matter of Charlotte Osei and the other commissioners, it was an Article 146 process. It was triggered and they were removed. Again, sometime in November, Professor Kweku Asare, a.k.a. Professor Azar, triggered a process. A petition was sent to the then president, Richard Ahiangba's president, President Nana Akufo-Addo, for the removal of this very Chief Justice. The constitutional process was triggered into effect. The president made a determination that the petition was unmerited and same was dismissed. He issued the letter to dismiss the petition on the 6th of January 2025. It didn't happen in 1980. It didn't happen in 2000. It didn't happen in 2020. It happened in 2025 January. His last act possibly in office. Now, so this is not the first time a petition has been sent against the removal of this very Chief Justice. For any of them to engage the media and speak in the manner that they do. But what do we expect? This is a constitutional process. So we should allow the process to be gone through. They are so apprehensive as if the matter has been determined and the CJ has been removed. Why don't you allow the process to take effect?
I mean, they cite prejudicial comments made by officers of the party, for example, Musa Fagbade, who they cite. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Roxy?
Yes, it's better now.
They cite prejudicial comments they allege have been made by officers of your party, including Mustafa Gbande, who is on record to have made statements to the effect that the Chief Justice will go.
Mustafa Gbande is not the Constitution of 1992. Hold on. Mustafa Gbande, with all due respect, it's not the Constitution 1992. The president, in making this determination this afternoon, cited clear provisions in the Constitution.
But doesn't his comments betray the motive of the administration?
How does he do that? Is Mustafa Gbande part of the panel that's been set up, or part of the committee that was set up to establish a prima facie determination? Or was Mustafa Gbande part of the petitioners? I believe that comments by political actors cannot always be construed to mean what they are suggesting. But I am happy that the process is being proceeded with in accordance with law. And I'm very happy that we must allow this to go through. Whether or not the outcome will favor one part, the petitioners, or the CJ in this matter, I would love the process to go through.
And you talk about process. I want to bring in Nana J. Bafwe, a lawyer, and he speaks also for the MPP, MP for Mensah South also. Mr. Bafwe, he talks about process there. Isn't that exactly what the president had done today? That everything that has happened leading up to the suspension of the CJ has been due process, as specified under the Constitution?
Good evening, my brother, to your cherished listeners, and good evening to my brother, Roxon. We need to appreciate that when we talk about the Constitution, we are not talking about the Constitution of the New Patriotic Party or the Constitution of the NDC. We are talking about the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And therefore, it is important for us to look at it from the perspective of an independent constitution made for the people of this country. Yes, I have always maintained that under the constitution, the president has the power, right? The provisions, in terms of the provisions of the removal of the CJ, there's provision for the president's power under Article 146. And all that I have said, time without number, is for us to exercise caution. The development today is the suspension of the Chief Justice. It is imperative for us to appreciate that no court in the Republic of Ghana has given an interpretation to Article 146(10) of the Constitution of Ghana in terms of the power of the president to suspend the Chief Justice. And so the fundamental question that you ask, which is that, is the president following the procedure as provided for by the Constitution? My humble response in respect of the suspension is that no, the procedure hasn't been followed. And I will explain to you why.
Briefly?
Yes, I'm going to. When you look at Article 146(10) of the Constitution, the power of the president to suspend the Chief Justice is discretionary because the word may is used. The word may is used. The exercise of discretion, the procedure that governs the exercise of discretion, is provided for by Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution and 23 of the Constitution. In my humble view, there is the need for the existence of a regulations by way of a constitutional instrument, right, or a legislative instrument, but in this case a constitutional instrument because the constitutional power being exercised, right, or any other law, right, prior to the suspension of the Chief Justice. Because when you look at Article 296 of the Constitution, particularly C, the only persons or group of persons who are exempted from the exercise of the discretion, from the requirement of a prior existence of a regulation or of a regulation, right, before the exercise of a discretionary power, is a judge or a judicial officer. The president is not part of it. Okay, in my humble view, without the regulations, the suspension of the Chief Justice may well be unconstitutional. And I will add further. I will explain further. You see, when a Chief Justice, when you look at Article 125 of the Constitution, the power of the judiciary to administer justice belongs to the people. And that is why in appointing the Chief Justice, when nominated by the President, is taken to Parliament for Parliament's approval. That is why. You see, the President brings the Chief Justice to Parliament that I nominate this person to be the Chief Justice. And Parliament will, in exercise of its power as representatives of the people, say we accept him or her as the Chief Justice. Now, I am saying that the means by which the people take part in the procedure or process for the removal of the Chief Justice is the passage of the regulation. As we speak, that regulation is not there. And therefore, when you are going to remove a Chief Justice, who is the people's Chief Justice? There's a need to emphasize this. Who is the people's Chief Justice? In the absence of a regulation, especially when the whole process by the Constitution is in camera, and therefore nobody knows what goes in there, it is the rest of the people's participation, and that is unconstitutional.
I see. Let me pick the thoughts of Roxanne. Roxanne, you agree with this understanding of the constitutional provision on this matter?
I disagree this sort of interpretation. I totally disagree. There are clear provisions in the Constitution that provides for in the absence of the Chief Justice, or in the event that the Chief Justice is unable to perform the functions of office of the CJ, the senior most judge will act. So is my brother saying that because in the course of appointing a person to occupy the office of Chief Justice, the Constitution provides for a role by Parliament, the President cannot remove, the President cannot exercise his powers under 14610? I'm actually struggling to appreciate the formulation of the legal reasoning that is urging on us. But I think that it has no place in the scheme of things. But if he feels strongly about it, like I want to do, he can proceed to court. He can proceed to court for clarity, because the position is urging on us. It's not founded.
Bafo, will you entertain the thought of taking this matter up to the Supreme Court?
To be able to,
I am in this reflection.
Hello?
Yeah, Roxy, just a second. Yeah. Bafo, would you take this to the Supreme Court?
My brother,
clarity on this?
Roxanne's position is completely at variance with the law. I made reference to Article 296 of the Constitution.
I heard
which
you.
Regulates,
I heard you.
Which regulates the exercise of discretionary power.
I heard you.
Okay.
Do we agree?
Okay. Bafo, the question I asked you
when you were speaking, I was
the two of us agree?
Roxy, just a second.
Do the two of us agree?
Bafo, just a second. On the subject, I think you've articulated your position on the law quite clearly, but it's still subject to interpretation. I'm asking you, he's suggested that if you feel so passionate about this, the place to go for clarity on this is Supreme Court.
I am not ruling it out. Okay. It's something that I'm deeply considering.
Okay. Roxanne, you're making a substantive point.
Yes, I'm saying that the point that he's making has no basis. He's struggling to piece the provisions together in order to sound reasonable, but it has no basis. Once this process has been triggered, the CJ is suspended. And he says that because May is used, the president's exercise of the power to suspend the CJ is erroneous. It's totally unfounded in law. So I won't debate this with him. He can take it to court. I do that a lot. These are matters that if he feels strongly about, hey, he knows where to go to. But to say that the president has no power to exercise, when that power has actually been exercised, this is not the forum. This is forum non-convenience.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. And that there is Roxing Nelson Defamekpo, who is a minority chief whip there. Nana J. Bafwewa, lawyer and MP for Mensah South. Now, the Center for Democratic Development is clarifying that as far as they're concerned, this entire process that has now led to the suspension of the CJ has serious governance issues that need to be interrogated. I want to bring in right now Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, is the Director of Policy Engagement and Partnership at the CDD. Doc, I'm grateful for your time here on Newsnight. You wrote the piece on behalf of the CDD long before the suspension was confirmed. You believe at the core of this debate are serious governance questions. What are these?
Yeah, thank you, Evans. This is really unprecedented. The suspension of a Chief Justice under the Fourth Republic, and I think it's one that really creates difficult challenges, given also the political context in the run-up to this development. But we've always argued, even when Professor Sari first presented his petition to President Akufo-Addo, that there are challenges with the governance framework within which the Chief Justice and the judiciary work that has to be cured. Otherwise, the questions of bias will keep coming up and create more challenges for any Chief Justice that takes the position. So one is really the Chief Justice's power of administration in terms of, empaneling, in terms of promotions, transfers, all of those kinds of powers, where it is very difficult in many cases to be able to establish any kind of intent. So if you suspect that a Chief Justice empaneled a committee for a particular case, how do you begin to work out any particular intent to favor one person or the other? What you need to do is to set up some sort of a lot system that allows panels to be created. This is done in many other jurisdictions. We've not fixed that problem. There's been a problem with the capping of the number of people in the Supreme Court because people have complained about packing the court to sort of get a particular favorable outcome in some cases and all of that. So these are really legislative reforms that have to be addressed because whatever the outcome of this kind of process, whoever comes in, if the Chief Justice to go, will become an issue. If the Chief Justice stays and still operating this governance framework, people will still make the claims about bias and so on. So for us, once you don't deal with that, what we are doing is basically dealing with the symptoms of the problem and not the core of the problem. But this is a real challenge. I think beyond the legal arguments that people are making, you have to ordinary citizens in terms of their belief in the court system. How does this enhance or undermine it? These are some of the questions we have to ask ourselves.
And the more fundamental question, Dog, now that we are getting to the phase where the proper investigation is going to be done, is the implication, the consequences of what is about to unfold. In fact, what has unfolded today, the suspension, and the subsequent hearings that will happen. And eventually we'll get to know the details of the 3 petitions. The implications for the judiciary itself, its integrity, its legitimacy in the eyes of the public.
Yeah, it's a bit... No, go ahead, please.
No, proceed, yes.
No, for me, it's even bigger than that. Basically, since 2012, since the petition, the election petition, the whole architecture for removing independent heads of independent governance institutions, has been attacked, right? We started with I think it was Loretta first, right, where she was cited for malfeasance and so on, and was removed. Then we came to Charlotte Osai one, which led to all kinds of political fallouts. And then we came to the Mlovo one, right? Now, we've come to a point where these things are built up, and to the point that people already believe, as soon as you trigger this process, it means you want to remove this person because of political bias.
if we don't find a way to sort of take a halt and say, what really is the problem? How do we make sure that people have trust in these institutions and we can protect the heads of those institutions? We can only end up in destroying and undermining all these governance systems that we have built under the Fourth Republic. And if you listen to what the way the politicians are posturing, really, you can see a disaster down the road. So we are in the process. The process has been triggered. There's nothing you can do about that.
I mean,
I'm looking at 146.
Will the judicial reputation survive this?
I don't know, because I don't know the outcome of the process. But what my point is that we cannot leave the more substantive issues hanging, even as we go through this process. There has to be a real attempt, both on the political side but also the governance side, to fix a problem that, for me, the last 10 years or over 10 years has been bubbling up, and we've come to this point where we can actually fall even further if we don't find a way to stop this kind of tit-for-tat behavior.
And that leads to one thing: constitutional reforms. And I know many have suggested that take the president out of the equation completely in this sort of process.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and there are many sort of models that we can look at. But as I said, you still need to look at the way in which the Chief Justice exercises his or her powers under the Constitution and then under statutes. It's because that is where is the actions, and I think Bewura was talking about discretionary power, which needs to be regulated under 296C. After France versus Attorney General, that has been ruled to be not justiciable. So even the kind of shackles that you can put around discretionary power has been removed by the Supreme Court. So there are really real problems with the governance framework now, because if we don't take care, you get to a point like we've seen in other countries where a president can basically ask somebody to trigger a petition and then go through the process and basically remove any head of independent governance institution.
And very quickly, I need to ask you, since I have you, I know CDD were part of that legal process that was commenced at the time when Daniel Demolevel was asked to proceed on indefinite leave, and you challenged at the Supreme Court. And I know I've spoken to you many times where you complained bitterly about the delay in impaneling the justices to hear this particular matter. And subsequently, it became moot after he had gone. The matter was heard, but it was no consequence. Considering that Daniel Demolevel is one of the 5 members of the committee that now will be hearing the case against the CJ, many raised questions about that, and that it may actually pose questions about the integrity of this particular committee. A man who suffered, some may suggest, at the hands of the Chief Justice's abuse of discretion.
No, I completely have every faith in Mr. Demolevel to be fair. I mean, I've known him since the 2000s. When he was in the Accountant General's office. He's, as far as I know, he's always been fair. It doesn't matter, what has happened to him. So he takes his integrity very, very seriously. So I don't necessarily see that he's that kind of person that gets swayed easily by his emotions. When he's giving a duty, he will discharge it in accordance with the highest of ethics. So in his case, I don't have any problem. And all the members that have been put on the committee, I'm hoping that they understand the context within which they're supposed to make this decision, and deliver a judgment that addresses the bigger problem, because this is the judiciary and the administration of justice right at stake for all of us. If that system is completely weakened, we don't have any safeguards again. So we have to be very, very careful. I mean, it's intriguing that this Article 146.10 that, I think somebody read. If you read it, actually, it is asking it basically says the president, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State,
by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. So I'm asking myself, is it the Council of State that recommended that the CJ be suspended? You know,
and
so,
that, I guess, is one of the gaps
they are
that you're
put in the
suggesting
post. That's
needs to
the
be
other
addressed.
thing.
Yeah. Doc, thank you very much. That's Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, the Director of Policy Engagement and Partnerships at the CDD, with his thoughts on this. And this keeps unfolding as you're now also hearing and getting confirmation now that the senior most member on the bench, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, is now acting and may have actually commenced work already. And so before this was announced to the public, we now know that the most senior most person have started work already. My colleague with the Legal Affairs Desk, Kweku Asante, is with me in the studio. Kweku, who is this judge in question?
Justice Paul Kojo Bafuboni is now the acting Chief Justice of the Constitution and everything there. He was appointed to the Supreme Court in June of 2008 by President John Agyekum Kufuor. Before that, he had been nominated by the same judge to the same president to go to the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, I should say, in June of 2006, and he also served as a High Court judge. He has a very checkered history. In fact, right now, he's, like you said, the most senior on the Supreme Court, but he's also had a very distinguished career. For instance, in the election petition of 2013 that challenged the validity of the election of John Dramani Mahama, he is one of those judges whose vote actually swung the pendulum in favor of John Dramani Mahama when, in some of the reliefs that were sought by President Akufo-Addo and the other petitioners, he disagreed with them, although with some of the reliefs they were seeking, he had actually supported them on that score, leading to what some lawyers called a 5-4 decision in that matter. He is also brother to one of the very popular John Mahama advisors in the person of Kwesi Bafuboni, who used to own Radio Gold. They are brothers, and he was implicated in that Muntie 3 matters and all that. He was fined as director of Radio Gold and that. Bafuboni is also the husband of the newly appointed boss of the Ghana Prison Service that John Dramani Mahama just appointed when he assumed office, Mrs. Bafuboni. And so that is the kind of person that is going in there now, who has served on the court for a very long time, from High Court to Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. And he has been there since 2008. He went there with Enin Yaboa and Justice Doche, who have all since retired. He is still there, and he's now going to hold the fort until the determination is made on the merits of the petition against the Chief Justice, Gertrude Sabatokuno.
And indeed, he's celebrated for a lot of fine judgments that he's rendered all the way from the High Court. And back in the day when I used to be a court correspondent myself, I sat in this court many times, and he delivered verdict on some very, very controversial matters at the time. And quickly on the subject of now the handing over of the reins as far as the administration of justice in this country is concerned at the very highest level. I want to bring in Samson Lada Yenini very quickly. He's been following the developments at the Supreme Court, but also within the judiciary since this confirmation came that the Chief Justice has been suspended. And Samson, we're now learning that Justice Bafuboni is going to now act. How long would you surmise this will last until after the case is determined against the CJ and the conversations around? Is it automatic that because he's acting in the case where the committee confirms that the CJ indeed should be removed, he automatically steps in as a substantive one? How does this work?
Right. So, by the dictates of the Constitution, the most senior on the panel or on the Supreme Court bench automatically becomes the one who will act automatically. Understand that no ceremony is required, nothing or no act is required to be done before the person steps in that position. And as we speak, that person has in fact stepped in as the acting Chief Justice. If he travels tomorrow morning out of this country, the next most senior will be in that position as acting. If that next most senior was ill or for some reason was unavoidably unavailable, the next most senior. So the next
After Bafuboni will be Justice Gabriel Palmer. The next after Justice Gabriel Palmer, Avril, Lovelace Johnson, in that order. So that's the clear gist.
Except that this does not
Article
apply.
128, Clause 3.
Except that this does not apply, does it, when it comes to this appointment of a substantive CJ? The seniority is not necessarily followed, is there?
No, it's not followed when a substantive CJ has to be appointed. So whoever will be acting in that order, as I have stated, will only act pending a determination of pending a nomination of a new Chief Justice and the swearing in of a new Chief Justice to take over.
And if the committee exonerates the suspended Chief Justice, she comes back in and she just assumes, and Bafuboni resumes his position as the next most senior, I guess.
Exactly so. And Evans, if you allow me just a minute, I was listening earlier, and I heard Martin Tobu refer to one petition that he heard about on Newsfile, where I had suggested that it contained in excess of 20 different grounds. I must say that it came up because Paul Adumoche had, attempted to serialize the petitions that may have been leaked to him, and zeroed in on one particular petition of a man who is involved with some banking activity, and looked at 3 or 4 of the grounds and provided rebuttals for them. And I said that it is not good that even if the petition is leaked to you, and I said to myself, if the petition were leaked to me, I will not even put it out. And I stated that the particular petition he was referring to does not have 3 or 4 grounds. It actually has in excess of 21 grounds plus some extra grounds. And it is most unfair to be serializing petitions, especially when they are leaked to you. I've heard all your guests speak to the question of rules and the need to have rules to guide this process. I was fortunate to lead Pekuba to the Supreme Court to challenge the removal of Charlotte Osei. And we made as part of our argument that there was a need for rules. You have heard from the NPP people say it has to be on a grave misconduct, not any form of misconduct. But Article 1461 does not state that it has to be grave. So we insisted that there is need for rules so that we state what particularly will consist in stated misbehavior or incompetence, and how the processes ought to be triggered. If there are 1,000 petitions, if the petition comes today, another petition comes the next day, what are we going to be doing with them? So we need to take time, particularly that the Constitution Review Committee is setting, that they pay attention to this.
Okay. Something, thank you very much. And we also have seen a statement coming from the minority in Parliament, a strongly worded statement indeed, in which they describe the decision by the President in consultation with the Council of State to suspend the Chief Justice as, quote, a coup. They call it a coup, a brazen judicial coup, a reckless abuse of executive power, and a direct assault on the independence of Ghana's judiciary. They say that this move, taking while legitimate legal challenges are pending before the Supreme Court, reeks of intolerable political vendetta, judicial intimidation, and a calculated attempt to pack the courts with NDC sympathetic justices, as openly promised by President Mahama in Akosombo in 2023. Now, they also are very clear in this statement that they've issued, the minority in Parliament, issuing a warning to the John Mahama administration that they will resist this, quote, judicial coup. They say that any further attempts to harass, intimidate, or unlawfully remove the Chief Justice will be met with fierce legal and political and public resistance. Any effort to pack the judiciary with politically compliant judges will be challenged to the fullest extent of the law. The legal fraternity, civil society, and all defenders of democracy will not stand idly by while the judiciary is turned into an appendage of the executive. And they make a few demands too, to be very specific. The immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice pending the Supreme Court's determination of the pending legal challenges, and 2, a halt to all removal proceedings until the judiciary has conclusively ruled on the constitutionality of the process. And so that's coming from the MPP minority in Parliament, demanding the immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice, who has tonight been suspended. Let's do some business now on the back of all that has been unfolding today around the suspension of the Chief Justice.
All right, Evans, in business tonight, International Monetary Fund warns growth for Ghana this year will suffer due to the current global tariff war. And cedi remained stable this week as $1 equals 15 cedis, 98 pesos. Business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all office essentials, Syntex tanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Hey, so as for you, every day you are just pressing your phone. Why? Are they paying you?
They are, Oma.
Eh?
The more I use my MTN, the more points I get. And I can use those points to get airtime, data, and even discounts at shops and restaurants.
Hey, so that is why all of you are always pressing your phones. And you won't tell us, so that we too we can enjoy some.
Oh, ma.
There's always more to enjoy with MTN Rewards. Just keep talking, testing, and browsing all day, every day to collect your points and use it to redeem amazing offers and discounted freebies right away. There's so much available for you. So dial *550# and get your reward today. Let's go everywhere you go.
Kweku, have you heard what they are doing on MTN?
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Businesses know how important it is to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is licensed to provide medical insurance services to corporate organizations and SMEs. We also have international LH Blue cover and TPAs to cushion you. Multinational companies, factories, and government agencies, focus on your business while Apex Insurance takes care of your health. Visit Apex Health Insurance office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, Kumasi, opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and Takrady Market Circle. For further inquiries, call 0501 562 962 or 0501 552 495. Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. I am James Ishan. Let's settle for the details now. Ghana's economic growth for this year will suffer while inflation could go up marginally. That's according to the new IMF Economic Outlook report. Joy Yafe has more from Washington, D.C., USA.
The IMF, in its Economic Outlook report, noted that this is due to Ghana's marginal exposure to the U.S. market, and now that development could could hit Ghana's economy going forward, as well as other African countries. Let's hear from its economic counselor at the International Monetary Fund.
The commodity exporters are going to face lower export revenues from the decline in oil prices. That's going to weigh on their fiscal outlook, on their growth.
The director has also been expressing some concerns about the impact on Ghana's inflation going forward and the cut in foreign aid.
We're looking at our assessment. We are actually downgrading the emerging market economies for 2025 and 2026, because they're also very plugged into the global supply chains. The uncertainty is leading to a pause in investment and activity.
The IMF director noted that the development called for some fiscal reforms by developing countries to lessen the impact of these developments on their respective economies, including that of Ghana.
And that's George Raffid there with the report from Washington, D.C., USA. Now, reacting to the report, economist Professor Lord Mensah has advised government to start diversifying its export to explore other opportunities from Europe to withstand the shocks from the U.S. tariff increment.
Ghana has done well when it comes to the diversification of its, trade, export. For instance, if you rank, in terms of the data of volumes of export, clearly, you will come to appreciate that the U.S. is around on the 7th, position when it comes to our export volumes to the U.S. So, dealing with the Switzerland, dealing with China and all those, I think Ghana stand, a position of some way, somehow, not affected that much, from these tariffs. But then, Ghana may not be affected, but then you remember Ghana is trading with China. If China has a problem with the U.S. and it turns up that, the economic activity within China goes down, obviously it's going to affect consumption levels of, the Chinese, and it may affect,
Professor Lord Mensah as an economist. Next, the Ghana cedi is expected to trade fairly stable against the US dollar this week on the retail market. This is against the backdrop of the Bank of Ghana's relentless market intervention. Ghana's reserves are seeing a sharp growth, and the central bank has been intervening in the forex market to keep the cedi relatively stable. The following report has more.
Last week, the Bank of Ghana's $250 million market intervention sufficiently met demand for the American greenback. As a result, the local unit remained stable versus the US dollar on the retail market, closing at a mid-rate of 15 cedis 90 pesos per dollar. However, it depreciated by 2.17% week on week against the pound and 2.54% versus the euro. Meanwhile, the cedi started trading yesterday, April 21, 2025, and changed at 16 cedis to $1. Its year-to-date loss stood at 2.36%. However, it gained marginally today, April 22, 2025, going for 15 cedis, 98 pesos. Ghana recently reached a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, during the fourth review of the $3 billion extended credit facility. This bolstered market sentiment.
And that was a news desk report. To the petroleum sector now, the chief executive of the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, Dr. Tony Obin, has stated that Ghana has the capacity to build world-class oil refineries to export finished products across the Western African region. He believes such a move will make the country a hub for the production of petroleum products. Dr. Obin expressed optimism after stating that the country is hoping to produce 900,000 barrels of oil per day.
Yes, we are looking at various, I think the three refineries, they're going to produce about 300,000 barrels
per day.
So
each refinery
day. Yes.
is going to produce
so we are looking at
900,000
a day. Let me just clarify that government is not putting up the refineries.
Yes.
So we have done some feasibility studies to know that it is feasible to do that here.
Dr. Tony Obin as the Chief Executive Officer of Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, Ghana. And that's all for Business on Newsnight with me, James Ishin. Over to you, Evans.
James, thank you very much. Let's do sports now. Ms. Bao is here with the latest.
Yes, head coach Abdul Karim Zito has assumed his role as the interim head coach of Kumasi Asante Kotoko following the departure of Dr. Prosper Nata Ogum earlier today. The coach, Karim Zito, did hold his first training session with the team. And, remember the club earlier today confirmed the changes in a statement stating that as part of a broader technical restructuring, which is aimed at revitalizing their season after a string of poor performances. Now, Karim Zito is a former player and head coach of the club. He's been named as a new technical director and will also serve as acting head coach until a permanent replacement is appointed. Zito is expected to bring a wealth of experience, having guided Dreams FC to historic CAF Confederations Cup semi-final and led Ghana's under-20 team to the 2021 Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations title. Meanwhile, member of Kumasi Asante communication team, Nidako, has been reiterating why they decided to part ways with Dr. Prosper Nata Ogum.
After spending so much, investing so much in the team, the target was, like you said, to win the league and also possibly to win the FA Cup. So we choose between the two. Which one are we going to use its ticket to go to Africa? Will we go for the Champions League or the Confederations Cup? But from the look of things, I said, the league is gradually eluding us, which, as far as management of the club is concerned, it's not a good thing for us, especially after leading the league log for weeks.
That's Nidako, member of Kumasi Asante communication team. Now, the president of Ghana Weightlifting Federation, Jerry Ahmed Shaibu, has been accused of bias in the non-participation or the failure of some top Ghanaian athletes to participate in the African Weightlifting Championship in Mauritius. The allegation, which is been leveled by the CEO of Group International, Just Keeping Going Incorporated, states that the decision by the federation to withdraw athletes including Paul Agrama, Ajay Abraham and Silvers Bublenu are just decisions which were taken unilaterally by the federation without recourse to due process. However, the Ghana Weightlifting Federation have responded to these claims, and in a statement released earlier today, and I quote, they say that to be absolutely clear, the athletes were not withdrawn, they were never approved or cleared to represent Ghana Weightlifting Federation in the first place. Their participation was not authorized by the federation, nor were they part of any formal registration submitted to the Weightlifting Federation of Africa, hence denying any allegations of bias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. So, Live Your News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. And today, the Health Minister, Kwabena Mensah Kando, clashed with management of the Tamale Teaching Hospital when he conducted a surprise visit to inspect the facility and also become familiar with the way they operate in terms of service delivery. This is what happened when he confronted some staff of the hospital about broken down equipment.
And life has been lost. That's why it's blown up.
No,
can you imagine if it was related to
you are not also understanding.
If you have that mindset, if you have that mindset, you will get the impression wrong. I'm sorry a minute. I told you to keep quiet, and you're not keeping quiet. That's not how to work. Your approach and your mindset tells me that that is perhaps why these problems have not been resolved. When you don't do that, keep quiet. You're giving me, I've tolerated. What do you mean by you don't understand why this is blown out? And life has been lost, and you think it shouldn't be blown out? One life is important. I've ignored your protest. But you see, I want you to highlight the problems you have been going through so that we can be seen attention. But don't say that, it shouldn't be blown out.
Thankfully, the health minister joins us on the line right now. Mr. Kando, what happened?
It was good evening. Typical of me, this morning, I went to Tamale Teaching Hospital to familiarize myself with the facility and also understand an incident that occurred on Sunday. And so, as part of... hello?
Yes,
hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you, yes.
Yes, so when the authorities were conducting new round, we got to the emergency unit, and the doctor in charge was then taking us through what really happened. But in the course of the explanation, I realized that some of his statements were not in good taste. he didn't understand why that specific issue could be blown out of proportion. So I had to draw his attention that when life is lost, it's very, very important, and we must all show concern, especially when people believe that it is avoidable or a preventable death. So at that point in time, there was a bit of tension because there were a lot of people following me, and so that brought about the authentication.
What about, so fundamentally you're not happy with the way they managed the treatment that was handed out that led to the unfortunate death, but also the facility itself, you weren't happy, and you also found officers who were defensive?
Yes, exactly. There were a lot of things that I was not happy about, especially when equipment bought by government has been run for some time and it's been left unattended to, it's developed faults, they couldn't maintain, they couldn't replace, yet they're expecting government to bring money to come and maintain or replace. I was not happy with that development at all.
Ultimate responsibility lies with the CEO. What has happened to him, the CEO of the hospital?
As I speak to you now, we have thanked him for his services he has delivered at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and we think that somebody else must come and continue as the CEO of the facility.
So he has been sacked?
Exactly.
With immediate effect?
With immediate effect.
He accepted this, or he's going to fight this?
Well, I don't know yet.
This was formally communicated to him in a letter or verbally?
In a letter.
But did you meet him today?
Yes, I did.
And because I heard you say that you're also going to set up a committee to look into the circumstances surrounding the death, the recent death. That hasn't happened yet, so I'm curious why the swift move to sack him.
We have set up the committee.
But they haven't
the
worked.
Committee has been set up.
They haven't worked to give you a report yet?
No, not at all.
So isn't
it
this
is not.
premature?
So get it right. Get it right. Probably relieving him of his position is not only because of the incident that happened on Sunday. And mind you, the appointing authority owes nobody any explanation for hiring or firing an employee.
Is he a staff of the Ghana Health Service? And so if you sacked him there, he returns to the service, or he's completely out of the service?
If he is a staff of the Ghana Health Service, once he's relieved of his position as a CEO, he can be seconded to any of the agencies under the ministry.
Thank you very much. That is the Health Minister, Mensah Kano, joining us on a decision that he's taking today on the back of his visit there. That's it for Newsnight tonight. And you can find all the stories, including what had just been breaking today, the whole day, the suspension of the Chief Justice, and what you're also hearing live on Newsnight, literally breaking in the last few seconds with the Health Minister confirming tonight that he has sacked the CEO of the Tamale Teaching Hospital with immediate effect.